Toxic Tackle here. Today I'd like to show you some of the homemade tools that I've made that really help you keep your lures consistent. This is going back to our lure tutorial videos. You saw the basics in those. I'm going to show you a little more advanced, the tools that you can make that'll keep your baits more consistent, make you more productive so you can make more of them faster, and keep them all consistent and nearly identical as you can do hand making lures. First, we'll start out with, most of this wood is poplar and some of it's cedar. Any harder wood will do good to make your patterns out of. This is a piece of cedar. It's real hard, and I traced or drew the pattern I wanted on there, and then I cut it out really precise. So when you cut out your lures, they come out of that pattern. You lay that down on your balsa wood and trace them all, maximizing your space of your wood, and that keeps them consistent. So you make plenty of patterns. I've got lots of different patterns to make different lures that I like to make. Next, keeping your bill angle the same is really important. The way I do it is I cut out the same pattern, exactly the same, and then I glue a piece of Lexan on there, and then I take the scroll saw and I cut the angle I want. So what you do is, once you've got them all cut out and you want to put all your bill angles in there before you start shaping, you slide it in this pattern all the way up against it. You go to the scroll saw and you just cut right through your little line, and don't cut it, just cut out the gap. So every one of them that you put in here, and they all should fit because you used the pattern to cut them out. Every one of them you put in here have the exact same bill angle. Okay, so you can do that on all your crankbaits, whether they're a thick one or a thin one, because they're all going to start out square. They don't start out round. If you had round ones, you could make something custom that would work similar to this, and maybe put some foam in there or some kind of modeling clay and imprint it in it, and then make this same kind of deal. But it'll keep your bill angles the same, exactly the same every time. It's just a piece of clear plastic that I glued on there. You slide the lure in and cut your groove. So that keeps your bill angles the same. So we've got our patterns for our bodies. We've got a template that helps us keep our bill angle the same. Now, when you want to start drilling your holes for body plug, for belly weights, or I generally don't drill these. And if this is a one-piece lure, not a two-piece lure with a through wire, I'll generally not drill these with a jig. But the belly weights are pretty simple also. You can take the same poplar wood that you used to do all of your other stuff, and this is a little thicker piece. You slide your pattern in there and make sure it's flush, and then I have drilled holes on the drill press as guides to drill holes. And this will work on a topwater bait or a crankbait, but this will keep them all the same. You simply put it in, go to the drill press, make sure it's pushed all the way to the right side, and the hole is lined up in the center of the bait. Drill your hole to the depth you want, flip it over, drill the belly weight, drill that one. Keeps them consistent. So making these little tools is the key to keeping your baits really consistent and increasing your productivity. And all the tools are easy to make. You can have different bill angles for different plugs, or you can have the same lure body and make several different bill angles and change the plug. You can go from a shallow running crankbait with an angle like that to a deeper running crankbait with an angle like this. But the pattern is the key to keeping them consistent. And this was just an easy make. This is a divider out of a tackle box, super glued to the top. Now I just cut my bill angle the exact right way, using the scroll saw to cut your bill angles, and using that little pattern and just tracing it in and out of the scroll saw. A couple other things. This is another jig I made that'll go in the drill press. Your lure simply lips in here and locks in here, and you can drill a belly weight from the top. So your patterns, your tools don't have to be good looking or anything, but as long as they keep them consistent. Alright, y'all saw me shaping a balsa flatbait yesterday on a little machine that I made. It definitely helps keep them consistent. It's this. It's a pulley out of a cheap little, well, I guess you'd call it a snatch block, a little pulley similar to this that you can get at the hardware store. And this was a bigger pulley, but this is a smaller pulley. And I simply removed the pulley from its little housing, and I did grind down the edge of it. I put it in the drill press and I took a grinder and grinded this edge down a little shallower, and I simply just glued strips of sandpaper along the edges. Cut it out with a scissor and just glued it, and I left the center open. If you don't leave the center open, when you put your plug in there, it'll keep grinding. The center is what makes it stop, and it just rounds over the edges. You can use it in a drill press. Y'all saw the little foot feed. It's an old rod wrapping machine that I made mine out of, and it just gives me a little more control over the speed. And you simply just take your lure, hold it up there as it's turning, drag it through, and the center not having sandpaper in it keeps your lure from going too deep. So after you shape it like that, here's a smaller pulley just like the one you just saw. It has sandpaper just in the center. So the part that you didn't sand with the other pulley, you can actually run it through here and it'll sand the center, but it won't take any more off because there's no sandpaper on the sides. You just be real gentle. Other tools that I've made that work really good, y'all saw me using a flap wheel to smooth that one. Well, this is a flap wheel that I had shaped to a conical shape in the middle, and you can actually run your lures through there and take the sand marks out of the other pulley we just used. You can put this in the drill press and get it spinning pretty fast and just light pressure, and it'll smooth out all the sand marks. And here's another one. This is a flap wheel that I've shaped, and I either shape them with some scissors, or you can take a mechanical grinder, get this spinning, and take your grinder and grind your little groove. I mean, you just got to play around with making your own tools. There's not a lot of tools out there that are geared just for lure making. So these are some of the ideas that I've come up with to keep lures consistent, and that's why I share it with y'all. Y'all see me making them by hand on the videos. This is where I've progressed from making them all exactly by hand, using the knife to carve them and stuff, which I still do that because I like doing it that way. But when I've got to make a lot more lures, or I want to put out a lot more, or I've got something that's working really good, or I come up with something new, anytime I do a new bait, I'll go back and I'll make a pattern out of it. I've got hundreds of these. Some of them are for flat baits, some of them are thicker patterns for more round baits. You can take a factory lure, lay it down here, and make your own pattern and copy that shape. You can take a Little John or any kind of lure, lay it down there and trace around it, and you can come up with a pattern right there. Yours is not going to be exactly like that one, but it'll have the general shape of the lure you want. So, some quick tips on some of the tools that you use and make yourself to keep your lures consistent. So, y'all comment if you see anything that I need to touch up on or whatever. I'm going to keep doing little videos like this, trying to progress y'all into being able to turn out consistent lures, and you may come up with something really good. Thanks again.